The white puppy was going to die. Marcus Whitfield knew the signs. He saw the shallow, rapid breathing. He saw the sunken eyes that were too weak to open. He saw the way the tiny body had stopped shivering, which meant it no longer had the energy to fight the freezing rain. Marcus knelt on the muddy road, the storm hammering against his curved spine, and lifted the cardboard box that someone had tossed into the ditch like garbage. Inside, curled into a ball no bigger than a man's fist, was a puppy so white it seemed to glow against the brown filth surrounding it. 5 weeks old, maybe 6, abandoned, left to die in a jungle where jaguars prowled and army ants could strip flesh from bone in a matter of hours. Marcus cradled the puppy against his chest, feeling the faint, thready heartbeat through his rain-soaked flannel shirt. The animal did not move. It did not whimper. It had already surrendered to the cold. But Marcus Whitfield had not survived 68 years by surrendering. He stood up, his knees cracking in the cold, and whispered into the roaring storm. "Not today," he said. "You do not get to die today. If you believe that every life matters, no matter how small, and if you love stories about the impossible bonds that can heal our broken hearts, please take a moment to subscribe to Eternal Bonds right now." When you subscribe, you are not just watching a video, you are joining a family that believes love is the strongest force in nature. Every single subscriber helps us find and share more of these miracles with the world. Please click that button and let us bring a little more light into the darkness together. The cabin appeared through the rain like a grey ghost. It was not much, just 4 walls of weathered mahogany, a tin roof that sang violently during storms, and a porch where Marcus had spent 10,000 sunsets watching the jungle breathe. He had built it with his own hands 12 years ago, back when his wife Margaret was still alive, back when they still believed they would grow old together watching the howler monkeys in the canopy. That was before the cancer took her, before his son David stopped returning his calls, before the silence became so loud that Marcus fled the United States and came here to the edge of nowhere to disappear. He pushed through the heavy wooden door and grabbed a towel from the hook. The puppy was cold as a river stone. Marcus dried it gently, terrified of pressing too hard on those fragile ribs. Then he did something he had not done in years. He prayed, not to any god in particular, just to whatever force in the universe decided which creatures lived and which ones died alone in cardboard boxes. "Please," he whispered to the empty room, "not this one." He wrapped the puppy in a thick wool blanket and held it against his stomach, using his own body heat like an incubator. He mixed formula from the emergency supplies he kept for injured wildlife, diluting it carefully, testing the temperature against his wrist, the way Margaret used to test baby bottles. The puppy would not drink. Its mouth hung open, tongue pale as paper. Marcus used a medicine dropper, placing single drops on the tongue and waiting for the swallowing reflex that might never come. 1 drop, 2, 3. On the 7th drop, the puppy swallowed. Marcus wept. He stayed awake all night, feeding the puppy drop by drop, adjusting the blankets, checking the heartbeat with his calloused fingertips. By dawn, the rain had stopped. The puppy was breathing steadily, and Marcus had given it a name, Ghost, because it was white as moonlight, because it had nearly become one, and because in some strange way the name reminded Marcus of Margaret, who used to joke that she would haunt him forever if he did not take care of himself. "I am trying, Maggie," he said to the silence. "I am trying." 3 days passed. Ghost opened his eyes for the first time, revealing irises the color of dark honey. He looked at Marcus with the bewildered expression of all newborn things, and then he did something that broke the old man completely. He wagged his tail, just once, just a tiny flutter of white fur, but it was enough. On the 4th day, the jungle went quiet. Marcus was sitting on the porch, Ghost sleeping in a wicker basket at his feet, when the air changed. He knew that silence, It meant something was moving through the undergrowth, something that made the monkeys hold their breath and the birds forget how to sing. He reached for the rifle beside his chair. 12 years in this jungle had taught him that preparation was the difference between living and dying. The black shape emerged from the tree line like liquid shadow. 200 pounds of muscle and obsidian fur, moving with the terrible grace of an apex predator. Yellow eyes fixed on Marcus with an intelligence that always unnerved him. Shadow. She was a black panther, a melanistic jaguar. Marcus had found her when she was 3 weeks old, crying beside her mother's body after poachers had come through. He had raised her on formula and raw chicken, watching her grow from a mewling kitten into the most magnificent creature he had ever seen. He had released her when she was 2 years old. She was wild now, but she had never left. Shadow climbed the porch steps, her massive paws silent on the wood. She paused 2 feet from Marcus, nostrils flaring. She had smelled ghost. Marcus did not move. He did not breathe. 8 years of trust hung in the balance of this moment. Panthers were apex predators. Dogs were prey. Biology was biology. Shadow lowered her massive head toward the basket. Marcus watched her inhale the scent of the sleeping puppy. He watched her lips pull back slightly, revealing canines that could crush bone like dry twigs. He watched her entire body coil with an energy he recognized from 1,000 hunts. And then he watched her do something impossible. She lay down, not beside Marcus where she usually rested. She lay down beside the basket, her massive body curving around it like a protective wall. She looked at Marcus with those yellow eyes, and he could have sworn he saw a question in them. "Is this yours?" Yes, Marcus whispered, his voice trembling. "He is mine." Shadow held his gaze for a long moment. Then she lowered her head, rested her chin on her paws, and closed her eyes. Marcus sat frozen, afraid to disturb the moment. A wild panther, an abandoned puppy. The two creatures that should have been predator and prey were lying together in the afternoon light like they had known each other forever. He thought of Margaret then, of the way she used to say that love made no sense because it was not supposed to make sense. Love was the force that turned enemies into brothers and strangers into family. Maybe, Marcus thought, love could turn a panther into a mother too. The months that followed were a miracle that Marcus wished he could share. Ghost grew into a clumsy, happy Labrador mix who chased butterflies and chewed on Shadow's tail. And Shadow, the lethal hunter, treated him with the patience of a saint. She groomed him, she played with him, she protected him. But the jungle is not a fairy tale. One afternoon, a truck rumbled up the mountain road. It was Jorge Mendez, a cattle rancher who hated predators. He stood at the bottom of the porch steps, a heavy shotgun in his hand. "I know the cat is here," Jorge spat. "It killed my calves. I will find it, old man. And when I do, I will kill it. And I will kill anything that protects it." Marcus stood his ground, but his hands shook. He was 68. He had a heart condition. He could not protect them forever. "This is reserve land," Marcus said, his voice steady despite his fear. "You have no authority here." Suddenly, a low growl vibrated through the floorboards. It was a sound so deep it was felt in the chest rather than heard. Shadow emerged from beneath the porch. She did not roar, she simply stood. And beside her, hackles raised, teeth bared, stood Ghost. They stood shoulder to shoulder, predator and prey, united against the threat. Jorge took a step back. The sight of the black beast and the white dog standing as one broke his resolve. It was unnatural. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. "Go home, Jorge," Marcus said softly. The rancher left, pale and shaking, but Marcus knew it was only a temporary victory. That night, fear gripped him. Not for himself, but for his family. He realized he needed help. He wrote to the National Wildlife Conservation Foundation, inviting a researcher named Elena to witness the bond. Elena arrived a week later, skeptical. But when she saw the 200-pound jaguar grooming the white dog in the golden sunset, she cried. She agreed to help Marcus protect the land. It was just in time. 2 months later, Marcus collapsed on the porch. It was not Jorge Mendes who took him. It was time. His heart, tired from years of grief and joy, was failing. The doctor in the city told him it was lung cancer, stage 4. He gave Marcus 6 months. Marcus did not stay in the hospital. He went home. He sat on his porch, watched his animals, and wrote a letter. He addressed it to David Whitfield in Tampa, Florida. He wrote about the jungle. He wrote about the jaguar and the dog. He wrote about the pride that had kept him silent for 15 years and the regret that now tasted like ash in his mouth. He mailed the letter, but he did not expect a reply. He died on a Tuesday morning, quietly, in his sleep. When Eleanor found him, Ghost was resting his head on Marcus's cold lap. Shadow was sitting at the edge of the clearing, letting out a low, mournful cry that echoed through the trees. They buried Marcus on the hill. Elena stayed to watch over the cabin, just as she had promised him. 3 weeks later, a truck rumbled up the muddy road. A man stepped out. He was in his 50s with graying hair and eyes that looked exactly like Marcus's. It was David. He held a stack of crumpled letters in his hand, his knuckles white. "I'm too late," David choked out, looking at the empty rocking chair. "I am so sorry, Dad. I am too late." He sat on the porch steps and wept. He cried for the wasted years. He cried for the father he would never speak to again. Suddenly, he felt a wet nose on his hand. David looked up. Ghost was standing there, his tail wagging slowly. The dog sniffed David's hand, smelling the scent of the man he had loved. He licked David's tears. And then the jungle went silent. David looked up. Shadow was emerging from the trees. The massive jaguar walked toward the porch. David froze. He stopped breathing. The animal was huge, terrifying, and beautiful. She walked right up to him. She looked into his eyes, her golden gaze piercing his soul. And then she did it. She pressed her massive forehead against David's chest. It was a gesture of absolute acceptance, a message from the wild. She knew who he was. She knew he belonged here. David wrapped his arms around the wildcat's neck, burying his face in her black fur, and sobbed. In that embrace, 15 years of silence were broken. 15 years of pain were washed away. Love does not end with death. It just changes shape. David stayed. He rebuilt the cabin. And every evening, if you walk past that place, you will see a man sitting on the porch with a white dog on one side and a black jaguar on the other, watching the sunset together. Family. Now, I have a question for you. Who is the ghost in your life? Who is the one waiting for you to show up, to forgive, to answer the call before it is too late? Do not wait. Make the call. Send the letter. Drive the truck. Because love is the only thing we leave behind. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and share it with someone you love. And do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Together, we can keep telling stories that matter. Thank you for watching, and remember, it is never too late to come home.